Hello and welcome to episode number 21 of the Geek Garage. Yeah, number 21. We're getting up there of the Geek Garage podcast. In case you didn't realize which podcast you
I forgot where I was completely, David.
Yeah,
I'm glad you reminded me.
I'm glad that I'm here to let you know.
Let me know.
And I download all my podcasts at random, so I never know what I'm listening to.
That's a good way to be. I am your host, David Dassall. With me today are having problems with your mic.
Having so many problems already. Off the bat.
Yeah.
It's okay. We got this.
So with me today are Roger. Fuck.
Whoever you are.
Roger's not here.
That would be Mark.
Mark Conwell and Jared
Rigsby.
How are y'all doing?
Fantastic.
Doing good.
Cool.
Yeah. Excited to be here.
Good. Thank you so
work.
much for being here, both of you.
Yeah.
If you listen to our episode of where we did Game of Thrones season 7 review, you might recognize Mark. He was on that episode, except we kind of fucked up the audio on that, where I accidentally used the microphone on my laptop to record instead of my microphones. So that was cool. Jared, he is new to the podcast as far as guests go. However, he is part of a group called Nashville Unsigned, and
yes.
he will kind of plug that a little bit later on as far as what they do. But he is not new to podcasts in general because they have one over at Nashville Unsigned.
Yeah.
But yes, guys, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Excited.
Yes. So we have a 2.5 hour movie to discuss in under 1 hour. And the title of this podcast is Thanos Demands You Listen to This Podcast.
Thanos.
Except that wasn't a very good villain voice. I'm just
It's
terrible.
close. It's close.
Thanks, man.
You could be the next Thanos.
Right.
We'll play.
So, segment number 1, we are basically going to spend just a few minutes each talking about our general thoughts and feelings about the movie, maybe 1 or 2 things that we liked about it, 1 or 2 things that we didn't like about it, and we'll go with a letter grade that we would give the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Sound great?
Yeah.
Cool.
Let's do
It
it.
can be any letter we choose.
Yes,
so I
any
can do like
letter.
an N.
The letter Z.
Yes, but if it's below G, then you have to specify what value it,
What that
and
means.
weight it holds, because I don't know.
Okay, that's fair.
It works.
Yes. Jared, you want to start us off?
Yeah, let's do it. So, my thoughts overall. This is definitely probably the most epic Marvel movie out of all of them, right? Leading up to 10 years.
I don't think it was that epic.
It was glorious. It was like Shakespeare, but really, I was really impressed at the feat they pulled off and the combination of everything that they've plugged in, like finally coming to fruition, and like, whoa, I think a lot of fans kind of thought that it would probably end the way it did, right, with the snap. A lot of us were expecting that.
Sure.
But the lead up to it, there were so many like surprises, so many twists that I personally was way excited for. So my overall grade is definitely an A.
Yeah.
But yeah, good job, Marvel.
Yes.
Way to do the team thing without screwing it up.
Right.
DC. Complaints I had about the movie. The only one that really sticks out in my head is how much of a punk Hulk was. Spoiler, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, spoilers.
I guess
throughout.
I forgot to put that. I mean,
You can always add it in post.
right. Well, I mean, still, like the people that listen to the podcast know that everything that we talk about is like just spoiler filled. There's no spoiler free bullshit that we do. It's all full of spoilers, so that we can talk about it to its fullest extent.
You've had a week. Jeez.
Yeah,
Right.
If you
Come
click
on.
on a video about Infinity War and you don't want to get Infinity War spoiled, then that's
Yeah.
bad pre-planning.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But,
tons and tons of spoilers in
tons
this
of spoilers.
episode.
All right, back around to it.
Right.
So Hulk squares up with Thanos like right off the bat, and you're like, oh yeah, Hulk. Thanos just schools him. One of my favorite fights out of the movie. It was a really simple fight, but it was awesome watching Thanos just like slip his punches and like pull some straight up martial arts on Hulk. And that's what I'm thinking for next movie. Like I think Hulk needs to like link up with Captain America or the Winter Soldier and maybe learn a few punches and some slips of some moves because Thanos just schooled him back.
Right. Yeah, that would not be a waste of time for Hulk. He needs to at least come back.
Yeah, I'm assuming he's going to have some kind of redemption in the
I'm
next
assuming that's
movie.
gonna be a major arc.
Because, you know, and it's interesting because you never think about that. Hulk is always the biggest, baddest dude, and it's like, he's like, raw power, but he matches up to someone as powerful as Thanos, and
Right.
Thanos is just like, well, I'm the better warrior, so you got
Right.
schooled, son.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be my only complaint, that he didn't come back. I wanted to see him square up with
I was definitely
the Black Order.
expecting him to have like this thing at the towards the end in the final
Yeah.
fight scene
Yeah.
where he like maybe busts out of the Hulk armor.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping for. At least like square up with Cole Obsidian. That would have been a cool fight to watch.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
you know, I liked that. They were like, you know what, we're gonna, you know, Bruce Banner. He's like, fine, I'll do it. You know,
Right.
and he's like one armed with the Hulk Buster and like squares up. I'm
Yeah.
like, you go, Bruce. But
Right.
Hulk,
I
shame.
don't know, I think that was a good because for so far the Hulk's been kind of a one-note kind of character, like he just smashes things, and
Yeah.
then they started a little bit in Thor Ragnarok, kind of give him his own personality. And now they're giving
Right,
him his
yeah.
own flaws, like he's still a child basically.
Yeah.
And he's a child that just got punched really hard, so he doesn't want to.
It's like no.
Like he's just having a tantrum and sitting everything out now.
Yeah. I'm wondering how that pans out.
Right.
But that's a good segue to Mr. Mark.
Yeah,
What'd you
Mark,
think,
you
man, overall?
chime in with haven't you people ever heard of discussing Marvel's Infinity War?
Yeah. Overall, I thought it was a great movie. I think my favorite parts of it was all the different character interactions, how they very early in the movie threw a lot of people together that hadn't interacted, like Tony Stark and Doctor Strange had good interactions, throwing Spider-Man in there.
Oh, yeah.
And then just mixing in like the Guardians of the Galaxy folks with different people, sending like Captain America and some other people to Wakanda to interact. I thought that was the best strength of the movie, is you gotten all these personalities in separate movies, and now you're just really mixing them in.
Yeah, like a tremendous amount too.
Yeah.
It was hard to see, like, you know, within their individual movies, it's easy to place who's the most interesting guy. You know, the main character is the most interesting guy. But now all of a sudden you have to take all of these most interesting guys and put them in a movie together.
Yeah, they did a great job of balancing
Yeah.
a bunch of very strong personalities.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
What letter grade would you give this movie, Mark?
Yeah, I'd give it an A.
A? Yeah.
Nice traditional grade.
Nice traditional.
Yeah, I'd say, and then speaking of my biggest complaint, this is going to be a very odd one that a lot of people probably won't have a problem with. But are y'all familiar with TV Tropes? It's a website that catalogs like a lot of reoccurring elements and
No, but it sounds like a kind of website that I should have bookmarked.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. But they have a concept called the designated girl fight. It's basically in a movie and a show when
Yeah, we were talking about this the other day. I was hoping that you would bring it up because you put it more eloquently than I could.
Yeah, so I probably won't be as eloquent now about it, but basically during the final battle at Wakanda, Proxima Midnight attacks Scarlet Witch, and then all suddenly Black Widow jumps out and is like, she's not alone, and then Okoye also jumps in. And it's kind of a reoccurring trope in things that if there's ever a large-scale battle, that the women will pair off and fight each other, presumably because they don't want to show like men fighting women. But I think when you take something like superhero genre, that it's odd having superpowered women, but then still treating them as though they need to be kind of
Right.
like
That's a good
protected or
point.
segregated.
Yeah.
But that's a very minor point. The movie overall is really great, and I'm probably one of like 10 people that actually complains about that scene. So
Yeah, we can talk a little bit about that scene a little later on when we get to talking about the final battle scenes. But so we'll segue into my thoughts. So overall, like you two, I thought it was a fantastic film. I really liked how the Russo brothers kind of brought their own patented Russo brothers feel to this movie.
Yeah.
I really like what they did with Winter Soldier and what they did with Civil War, and I was really hoping that they would kind of carry over that same look and feel that made those two movies so great to Infinity War.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And to me, they didn't disappoint.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things that I really loved about the movie. Not to get too pretentious or weird or critiquey, but like I feel like it quote unquote transcended superhero movies.
I think it did too. I
Like
think it was meant to.
Yeah,
you know?
to me, it didn't even feel like an Avengers movie. Like, the first Avengers movie, you're like, okay, this is a movie with a bunch of superheroes, a superhero ensemble, and you're like, that's how the Avengers is supposed to feel. And then Age of Ultron was basically like that, but instead of aliens, it was a bunch of robots.
Right, right.
And this one felt like just something completely different, yet so familiar. But it just felt right, you know?
It did.
It just felt right.
I agree.
So that was one of the things that I really liked about it. And then a third thing that I thought that they did really well is balancing all the characters. This is the first Marvel movie where it's had this amount of characters, and they made some interesting decisions to help balance out all the characters, like having a good group of them in Wakanda at the end, and then Tony and Peter and Doctor Strange and everyone flying throughout the universe on the donut, and then eventually crashing
on the donut.
Eventually crashing on Titan. So that was a cool way to kind of break up the whole having just a shit ton of superheroes in one location. But yeah, overall, I thought they did a really good job of balancing out all the characters. I tried really hard, and I was really nitpicky about trying to find something that I disliked about the movie or thought could have done a little bit better. Mark, you brought up a really good point with that one particular scene, but it was a very small thing, like you said. The one thing that I was a little disappointed with was some of the character reunions, specifically the reunion between Bruce and Natasha.
I thought the same thing. Yeah.
Because, and I'll kind of, I don't want to go in too deep here because we are still in segment 1, and this is
we'll
meant to be short summations. But yeah, overall, like I thought it needed just a little bit more. I was. Like, he was back. Like, he was the only character that kind of came back that they weren't sure where the fuck he was.
Yeah.
And so when he came back, like, Natasha's just like, Bruce. And I was like, yes, like, do something, react. Like hug each other or, like, I don't, and
it was awkward, I think.
It was just kind of like a
awkward.
fart in the wind. Like,
hey,
whatever.
Oh, hey, Nat. I think you called her Nat.
Right.
Hey, Nat.
Yeah.
We're fighting. See ya.
Right. But we can, like I said, we can get into it later as to why they maybe did that, and we can kind of play devil's advocate for that scene a little bit, and some of the other reunions. But yeah, we'll go on and segue into segment 2, which is basically just our freewheeling discussion. And we just earlier on this week, we picked a bunch of topics that we thought would make good, touching points, and we will now discuss them. Don't you like that introduction? It was great, right?
We will
That was a
now.
perfect introduction.
Well, the villains, I think that was a great
Yes.
note to go on first, because the villains in this movie were they were different from other Avengers movies. Like you mentioned before, like you had the first Avengers, and it was like one main bad guy, Loki, and then alien army. Right, so like,
Right.
Of course, the Avengers will come together and fight off this alien army. Then you have Avengers 2, and then it's like robot army with one mega villain, where the plot kind of revolves. What was cool about this is the Black Order itself. They were like little mini bosses for each of our, like, the Avengers are so big now. There's so many of them that it would just be like too played out for them to just fight like the Outriders, like at the end, the alien monster dudes that attacked Wakanda. For those of you who don't know who the Outriders are, but the Black Order, or the children of Thanos, I think made really interesting villains on like one-on-one battles, or like when you segment these little teams, and like this part of the team squares off against this guy, and they all have their own personalities and different traits.
Yeah, I actually thought they did a good job of giving them their own personality, even though they didn't get a whole lot of screen time, especially Ebony Maw, the guy with the telekinesis.
Yeah.
He could have been a villain in his own movie. They could have tried to pull like a DC
sure.
I agree. Yeah.
and had him come down in like a previous Avengers movie, which I'm
Yeah.
glad they didn't, because Steppenwolf was awful in Justice League. But,
Yeah. Yeah. There's the explosion I was thinking of.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I totally forgot about that.
Sorry. Sideways.
But yeah, so Ebony Maw I thought was great. The other ones were a little less developed, but I thought they were still interesting.
Yeah, the thing, like, I thought Ebony Maw was pretty great. I was super surprised when he died, like, almost smack dab in the middle of the film. It might have been even before, like, the middle of the film. I was totally expecting him to be, like, the tropey, like, first in command, or the first in command next to Thanos. He's gonna die, like, you know, soon before we get to the final fight scene, that kind of thing. And so I was actually very surprised and taken aback that he gets sucked out into space, which was an awesome fucking scene.
Right. And the whole Spider-Man.
Right.
You guys seen that Alien movie?
Right. He's like, I forget what Tony says in a response to what he says. He's like, yeah, but the kid's seen more movies.
Yeah. He's like, that's enough pop culture references out of here.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, and Ebony Maw, like, he straight up won that first battle against
yeah.
Doctor Strange.
For
and Doctor
sure.
Strange, like he was the man in this movie. Like, he was
really
he was
stepped
a
up.
badass dude.
Yeah.
I like the change. I might be the only one that has this opinion, but I kind of like the change in his abilities, Ebony Maw's abilities from the comics.
Okay.
Like, in the comics, he just manipulates your mind, right? Thus the Ebony Maw type thing. So he just like tells, like, kind of like Jessica Jones, the Purple Man.
Yeah.
He could like get inside your mind and make you do things, which makes him really dangerous. But the power itself is really like subtle. I did like the change for the movie though, that they made him like telekinetic. Like, it's not just, you know, that one power. It gives him something kind of fun to do when they actually like square off against him. And they can keep Thanos as the main villain with the big deep like storyline. Because like you said, Mark, Ebony Maw, like, especially comic book Ebony Maw, could have had his own like movie.
Yeah.
He's so in depth, you know.
And they even did put a little bit of a hint towards his comic book ability when he was torturing Doctor Strange, trying to like convince him what to do, which is like a very manipulative scene.
Oh, yeah.
That was a pretty brutal scene to watch. I was like, those are so many shards of glass.
Yeah, Doctor Strange is hardcore, man. It's like,
Yeah.
when he, in his own movie, he like died how many times? Like 1,000 times talking to Dormammu.
Dormammu, I've come to. What is it? I come to make.
I've come to bargain. I've come to bargain.
I've come to make a bargain.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That is a good point. Doctor Strange probably is really good at resisting torture, but he's like, I've been killed like 1,000 times.
Yeah, I died brutally a few thousand times by some dark dimension god. So yeah, whatever.
All right. Let's talk just a few minutes about Thanos. I thought this was my particular opinion. Maybe other people won't share it, but so it's no surprise that the villains in the MCU so far, from Iron Man to now, the villains have been inconsistent, to say the least. Like, we'll have a movie where the villain is really awesome and, you know, you can sympathize with them and, you know, they're just a well-rounded villain. And then we'll have one movie where it's not that great because of the villain.
Yeah.
And it kind of went back and forth with that, you know, up until now. And I thought that Thanos basically made up for all that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I was willing to wipe the slate clean because they did such a great job with Thanos. And one of the main things was that they made him, like, they gave him the backstory, like, of whether it was, you know, accurate to the comic books or not, I don't know, since I'm, you know, one of the three people here that doesn't really read comic books all that often. But still, like, I was glad that they kind of gave you a backstory, and he wasn't just some big purple dude here to fuck shit up. Like, he had a reason. As messed up as that reason may be, like, he had a reason, and they took the time to go into that reasoning as to why he wanted to wipe out half the universe's population.
Definitely. Yeah.
Like, it was almost like a Joker type of situation where you're like, the Joker has like a good point on a really messed up level, but you don't want to admit that because you don't want to seem like a sociopath yourself.
Yeah, I think what connects both of those is you realize they both understand the problem. It's just that they created a bad solution to it. So they understand the issue, just maybe murdering everybody's a bad solution.
And that's the most realistic I think you can make a villain. You're not just like like mustache twirling, I'm here to rule the world. That trope's been kind of played out. So it's like having some background to your villain and like understanding why he or she does the things they do is definitely a step in the right direction. I think he also really brought that whole space opera vibe to it. I think that made it seem so epic, off-world, right? So he's like a king in armor, and like they really like sold. I remember like when Thor first came out and everyone was like, oh, I'm not sure how this like weird space, but they're like also Asgardian, that kind of weirdness will play with audiences, and it totally did, especially when Guardians of the Galaxy came out, and and James Gunn put that whole space opera vibe to it, you know, from like the 70s, which you get the soundtrack from.
Right.
But Thanos was kind of like a step in the more serious direction of that space opera genre, and I think that really gave it like that edge of epicness.
Yeah, just in general, just the more that Marvel's leaning in towards some of the more outlandish concept of comics, the movies just keep on getting better and better.
Yeah.
And then I think one thing I liked about Thanos is he kept his composure throughout most of the movie. Like a lot of times villains, they're angry and they scream and kind of rant and everything. But Thanos always kept calm, always seemed like he was in complete control.
Yeah.
Like, you never felt like
I've heard other theories on that. Yeah, like he kind of lazily did his job because he halfway didn't want to do it. Like,
which that would line up with some of his like comic incarnations.
Right, and also why he didn't just obliterate everyone with the gems that he already had.
Right.
Like this guy has like everyone saw in the first Guardians movie what the power gem is actually capable of.
Right.
And he just kind of blasted people away with it, and it's like he could probably annihilate the entire Earth just right there and then with that one gemstone. You know?
I definitely think that's at the beginning when they're on the Asgardian ship. Well, I guess it's technically not an Asgardian ship, but the ship with those Asgardians.
With the Asgards,
that makes it an Asgardian ship because it's a ship with Asgardians on it.
No, that's fair. So when the Hulk burst through...
We're talking make and model here.
When the Hulk burst through the wall, one of the Black Order goes to help, but I believe Ebony Maw tells him that Thanos wants to have his fun. So I think that's the entire movie. I think Thanos was not in any danger, that he enjoyed fighting, and it gave him a good opportunity, which is also why I think Peter didn't actually mess anything up, because I think as close as it seemed like they were to getting the gauntlet at the end.
Oh, Star-Lord, you mean? Peter Quill.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's a couple Peters.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
So I think Thanos wasn't in any danger of losing the gauntlet. He was just letting it see where it went.
Yeah. And then Thor just comes out of nowhere. oh yeah, by the way, I have this awesome new weapon and you're screwed. It was like, he just popped out of the sky and threw it at him, and Thanos was like, oh man.
Yes, best entrance by a superhero ever.
Oh man, Thor is on another level with this one, man.
How did you guys feel? I mentioned this a little bit in my my little short introduction at the beginning. As far as balancing the characters, do you feel like they did a decent job balancing all the characters?
Yeah, for the most part. I think there's a few that I think didn't get as much screen time, like Black Widow, and then Captain America to a slight extent. But for the most part, for having like 800,000 characters in one movie,
having all the characters.
Pretty much everyone got a good moment to shine, especially Doctor Strange, who really stepped up in this movie.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. I agree.
I think, was that, there was a, there was an MVP talking point that we were discussing. I forgot where I put it in the notes.
A little further down there, I think.
Yeah.
But I forgot what I was going to say. Go ahead, David.
That's all right. I mean, I was just going to segue into the next talking point, the favorite or best fight scenes.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Hit me now. Characters, like, the only complaint I might have, and I can totally understand this, is kind of the Black Order. Like, they got their screen time, but they were also just kind of like, here I am, another general. I know a lot of other people have like, oh, I love the Black Order so much because like in the Infinity Gauntlet, like comic, I forget which one they were in. That was a more recent one.
Yeah, I forgot what the storyline was called, but it's when.
But they had such cool like backgrounds. Like Corvus
Yeah.
Glaive was actually like the leader of it, and like Cole Obsidian was actually his little brother named Black Dwarf, and like Proxima Midnight was his wife. So they all had these like kind of like interesting backstory connections, but. Like we said, with like 2.5 hours and all of the Avengers, I can see why they kind of cut on those bad guys' backstory.
Especially since they were kind of clearing the board of them anyway by the end of the movie. I don't think they wanted to develop them too much. Because I imagine the next movies, I mean, Thanos has the gauntlet, so that's going to be...
Yeah. Well, he destroyed the gauntlet by snapping.
I think it's still around because he used the Space Stone right after he snapped. So at least the Space Stone's still functional. So I think... maybe it weakened it, or you can only do so much, but I think he still has it.
Yeah. I think there's a little Easter egg in there that they placed with Peter Dinklage's character. And he still had the mold of the gauntlet.
Right.
So I figured since they showed us that little Easter egg, that it might come back around in like the second movie.
Yeah, it is definitely possible. All right, so fight scenes. This is one of the things that I was really looking forward to.
Oh yeah, me too.
Me personally, I thought they were all great.
Yeah.
And they're all my favorite. No.
Yeah.
So you had your big fight scenes at the end, the climactic ones. You had the one in Wakanda, and then you had the one on Titan, and then you scattered throughout the movie, like the beginning where they're on the Asgardian ship, or in New York. And then a couple others, just smaller ones scattered throughout the movie. As far as those smaller scale fights, I would definitely... It's a close race between the one in New York where the Black Order first shows up and they're flying donut.
Oh, yeah.
They face off against Spider-Man and Iron Man and Doctor Strange, and that's where, they all kind of meet for the first time.
Yeah.
It's a close race between that and when Captain America and company shows up to help out Wanda and Vision.
Yeah.
But if I had to choose, it would probably be that one.
Yeah.
Because I'm a sucker for like awesome hand-to-hand combat scenes.
Me too. I was going to say that had a lot of Winter Soldier vibe
for
in
sure.
it with
and
how they kind of
I think
move
that's the reason why I liked it, because although the other one was awesome, I mean, there's no doubt about it, but we've gotten those kinds of scenes before, and I was very much looking forward to... I guess it goes back to the me being excited about the Russo brothers bringing their like trademark vigorous fight scene, especially the way that they're shot.
Yeah.
I think that just all kind of adds up into the reason why I like that as one of the smaller scale fight scenes.
Yeah.
And just the fact that like Cap shows up like a friggin' badass and just catches
her spear.
Yeah, he's like,
impossibly
nah fam.
Yeah. And they toned down some of that stuff from the comics, right? Like her spear and like in the comics is like ridiculous. It turns into like this bolt of light energy, and
like
it's
trying to catch it would have been suicide.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a good thing they made it a little more grounded, because goodness gracious, how much more can they put in like a live action superhero movie than they already did
without causing their audience members nosebleeds.
Right. Like, wow, like brain explosion.
Right.
I do think they did a really good job with the fight scenes of having them all be unique. Like, it wasn't all just the same thing happening.
Yeah.
Like, they all had a different feel. Like, I just said, the one with Vision and Captain America in the subway station was a very, like, grounded fight. But then you had the massive, like, army battle at the end. Then you had the good, like, everyone versus Thanos fight on Titan. So everything had kind of its own tone, which I really liked. Yeah,
like the one-on-one, like even like the Thanos Hulk fight, like at the very beginning, that was fun to watch, and that had a very Russo like Winter Soldier-esque.
For sure.
But it was fun seeing that on the big scale of like
it
Thanos
was
versus
very
Hulk.
short-lived.
Threw a knee in there, I'm
Right.
like, and then like tossed him over his shoulder.
Right. Yeah, we were talking about this a couple days ago when we got back to work. We were talking about how Thanos was able to beat Hulk because Hulk is all about like these big, massive movements, And you know,
he's pure power,
right?
And he never he doesn't have to worry about losing because he rarely squares up with someone as powerful as he is.
Yeah, but he's not used to being up against someone who's pretty much the same size and height as he is, but can move more agile.
Yeah. Has more fluid.
Thanos is basically like a like Hulk, but can move like a boxer or MMA fighter.
Yeah, he did, and
which makes him
great to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a great introduction to his character and what his threat really was.
Right.
Like it would have, if it was just him and Hulk just throwing like haymakers at each other, it would have not been very impressive.
Rah,
but then you get a real sense of fear from, oh, this is why everyone's scared of Thanos.
Yeah. You're like, oh no, he's a warrior. He's not just a big guy.
Yeah.
And on the macro scale, like the Wakanda fight, I loved watching like Black Panther and Cap just like charge into that group and start doing their thing and just start scrapping with these monsters.
Like,
for
sure.
sure.
Like everyone's charging and they're noticeably ahead of the group.
Yeah. They're like
I seriously laughed so hard at that point. It wasn't very long, but I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. And of course the Hulkbuster just like jumping in there and she's like running.
I also
laughed. It's coming for you. Yeah.
So hard at that point because I mean it's Bruce, but he can't be the Hulk, so he has to wear the Hulkbuster on.
Yeah, when he fell or stumbled, Okoye gave one of like the best like side eyes ever.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Just like, oh, this is who's helping us.
Yeah.
Right. Be like, and why do we want to help these people with our vibranium?
Yeah,
again?
right. Like cool suit guy.
Right.
Yeah, but
I gotta hand it to War Machine too. War Machine really I think he stayed true to his like comic book name, where he really had like heavy duty artillery.
Yeah.
And like he was just dropping bombs on him.
Oh
like,
yeah,
at the
that
beginning.
big
Like,
explosion scene where
and it really differentiated him from Iron Man. You know, because a lot of other movies, he was I'm just kind of like Iron Man,
gray
but with
Iron Man.
gray Iron Man with like guns instead of
Right.
lasers. You know, in this one, he was just like popping out the missile launchers and like it was great to see.
Yeah,
him
he's
kinda
like,
take
I
his
might
own.
not have the cool suit that like just comes over like a pixelated thing forming over my body.
Yeah.
I might not have that suit, but boy, do I have some fucking guns strapped to this thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not hammer tech like last time.
Right. And I felt the same way about like Falcon in the Civil War movie, where Falcon shows up and he's like, "Oh, I'm not just a guy in a wingsuit anymore. Like I have all these like different like high tech gadgets and stuff that I utilize as well."
But I think you really have to give it to everybody in that battle. Like every time you would see someone do something like amazing and like a big damn hero moment, but then someone else would do something equal or above.
Yeah, you're
like
right.
When Scarlet Witch threw those big like
man,
machines up in the air.
Yeah, dude, she was probably the MVP of that particular battle.
Yes.
Just because, wow,
That
like
was-
holy crap.
Yeah, that was pretty brutal.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that just happened.
Yeah.
She just got ran over by like 4 big wheels.
And is it
are
her
like,
that took out Corvus Glaive?
She wait, who did take out Glaive? She took out Proxima Midnight. She threw her into one of the
That's
tractor
what
things.
I was
Yeah.
thinking. Yeah, she threw. And
I don't remember who.
poor Vision had it rough in this one.
Yeah.
Speaking of fights, he was in a lot of fights and
Yes.
didn't exactly win a lot of them.
Yeah.
No, he lost pretty much all of them.
He got
which is not like Vision because he has one of the stones in his
Yeah,
foot.
exactly. That's what I was so like shocked by. I'm like, dude, this guy is rocking an Infinity gem.
I think it's
and he's just
basically
getting
because
tore
he was
up.
trying to heal up the entire
Yeah.
way because he
Right.
did get stabbed.
He did
like,
get stabbed through the
in
chest.
the first 3 minutes of
Yeah.
his introduction. in the
Yeah,
movie.
and that glaive
he
is
did.
serious business.
Right.
Comic,
And he
comic
did
origins.
mention he was basically like, "This isn't doing what it should be doing after I get stabbed." Like he's like, "I'm not
that's
healing
right.
as I should."
That's right. Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's a
smart
good-
planning on the Black Order's part.
right. Sneak up on the powerful guy with
Yeah.
the gem. And,
Right. As far as the 2 big fight scenes at the end, do you guys have a favorite out of those 2?
I
man,
would-
seriously
they're
though.
tough. I would say the everyone versus Thanos fight was mine by a slight edge.
Me too.
The one on Titan?
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
mainly-
there's a couple of things that like shocked me, and that I was like, oh, that was interesting. Like using Mantis to put him to sleep.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, duh. Like, of course she can do that because she
Right.
like has been doing that to Ego for all these years.
Yeah.
Like, she can help a Celestial sleep, then she can help, knock out Thanos.
Right.
and then Doctor Strange.
Yeah, that was
in
my
fight.
biggest thing. I liked the Doctor Strange movie. It was good, but it was very, like, he created some sparky swords and some stuff like that, and that was about the extent of the magic.
Yeah.
But in this one, like, you actually felt like he was the most powerful wizard on Earth. Like,
Right.
when he created the duplicates of himself, all the portals he made, and then I really liked when Thanos threw some, like, rocks or something at him, and he turned them into butterflies.
I think that was like the reality gem. Like
Oh,
Thanos,
really?
or I mean, Doctor Strange was like countering something he did with like the Reality Stone.
Yeah.
That like blew my mind because he like changed whatever weird like thing he kind of created with the reality gem into like
Bubbles.
butterflies. You know, I was like, wait, what just like it was like a double mind fuck. Like what just happened? Like
Yeah, so, because Doctor Strange, he was going toe-to-toe with Thanos when Thanos had 3 or 4 Infinity Gems at that point.
yeah. He had
He had
he hadn't
reality.
quite got the time gem.
Yeah, he didn't have the mind or time. So yeah, he had
Yeah.
4 Infinity Gems.
Yeah.
And Doctor Strange was putting up a very solid fight.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, and like all of them, really, when they all like squared up. I loved watching like Spider-Man trying to pull off the gauntlet. You know, like,
I think I got it, Mr. Stark.
yeah, that was hilarious,
Yeah.
and they almost had it too, man. But
And we haven't touched on a whole lot yet, but the humor
Yeah.
of the whole movie was great. But then in that scene when Spider-Man's jumping through the portals and he was like, teleport kick.
yeah,
That, like, things like that really make me want them to do a Spider-Man and Deadpool movie.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it would
Yeah,
be.
you're right.
I mean, they would have to cast someone other than Tom Holland as Spider-Man, and I don't want another Spider-man origin story.
Or
But
that-
if they were able to, in a perfect world, if they were able to do a Spider-Man and a Deadpool movie, I thought that
yeah.
would be
Maybe with the
Well,
Fox merger.
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
actually put that down in my notes
Yeah.
today because I was, I saw that last night. I was like,
Yeah.
what does this mean? What does
Yeah.
this mean?
Yeah, so I mean, it's the further conglomerization of American media, but the plus side is we might get to see Deadpool make dick jokes at Spider-Man.
Right,
So
right.
it's up
Yes.
and downs to everything.
Yeah, that's the important thing to take away
Yeah.
from here.
I kind of feel like they'll be able to kind of retroactively introduce mutants after all this with Infinity War because they're messing with reality
Yeah,
as
I'm
it
actually
is.
very curious if they do something with that.
So I feel like this would be a good opportunity to kind of segue like, we put everything back to normal, but there's been some slight tweaks in how reality works, and now there's mutants on Earth, and they've been
Right.
here the whole time. You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. They're like, we'll reverse everything he did, and then they're like, who are all these mutants? They're like, close enough, whatever.
Right. And they already made like Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver out of the Mind Gem, right?
Uh-huh.
That they like created them with an Infinity Gem. So it's like, why can't they just retroactively create all the mutants through some sort of Infinity Gem?
For sure.
Just thoughts.
Yeah.
Just thoughts, MCU.
Y'all want to talk about some meetups and reunions because this movie had a lot of them.
Oh man.
So
Man, yeah.
a couple big ones: Thor and the Guardians, kind of like towards the beginning of the movie when
Yeah.
just flew splat on their
Right.
on their windshield. He's like, wipers, yeah.
Yeah.
That was funny as fuck.
Yeah.
Because the whole thing where Drax is like, this isn't a dude, you're a dude.
You're a
That's a man.
And I really like Rocket Raccoon and Thor's kind of dynamic.
Right.
Where like Rocket was kind of like they both used humor to kind of like dodge, more like deeper, darker emotions. And I love how they even touched on that.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
like, yeah, Thor's a goofy guy, but he's like, I've lost my mother, my father, my brother, and Rocket's
Yeah,
like,
It's all been within like a week.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like Thor Ragnarok happened the day before this.
Right,
Yeah.
right, and Rocket had done that in a similar way in Guardians 2, where he was kind of like, he pushes his emotions down and does jokes instead
Right.
of them, but they both have kind of those demons, and they could both talk about it for a second because it's like you have this new take on Thor where he's a lot funnier than he was in the first two, but at the same time you're like, I have to address the fact that I've lost all of my family
Right.
and my people.
Yeah,
And I'm out here still making jokes.
I like his comment about Loki. He's like, it's possible he's not dead, but he looked pretty dead.
Yeah.
But he might not be dead.
Yeah. He's done it before.
Yeah. So the other one, another one is Tony and Doctor Strange. I love how Tony is just like, who are you? Is the circus in town?
Yeah.
And then he's like, well, of course you're here living under my nose. Like nothing fucking surprises me
Right.
anymore.
And there's wizards. Okay,
Right.
cool.
I did really like when Spider-Man shows up at the battle at the beginning in New York against Ebony Maw, and I don't remember the exact wording, but Tony's basically like, hey, we're fighting these aliens. Also, there's wizards now, and they're on our side.
Also, there's wizards.
Yeah, he's like, what do I need to do, Mr. Stark? The wizard is flying up into the air to the flying donut. Yeah.
No, their interaction was great. They're somewhat similar characters, so it was nice seeing them kind of bounce off of each other.
Yeah, like technology versus magic.
Yeah, but
kind of
also
element.
both being kind of like arrogant and egotistical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mustache bros, right?
Yeah.
or is it goatee bros? I don't know, the whole
Something
deal.
like that. Yeah. So I guess the one of the other ones is Guardians and like Tony and Company when they kind of meet on. Do they meet on Titan? Is that when they first meet? And all they know is that they don't know the other people.
Yeah.
And that whole like scuffle between all of them where, you know, they're just shooting at each other and, you know, flying through the air.
Yeah,
and
I like
trying
how
to-
random is like, we're the Avengers, dude. He's like, wait, the Avengers? I've actually heard of you guys. You're like,
Right.
really? In outer space? Yeah. Yeah, Thor.
One of my favorite lines in the movie was when Tony asked the Guardians, like, who do you serve? And Peter Quill goes, am I supposed to say Jesus?
Yeah, that was pretty great.
And I liked seeing them in relation to one another as far as their power levels go. Because it's easy to see, like, you could tell that like Captain America and Spider-Man are like super powered compared to most other humans. But it's like when you watch the Guardians movies, you're like, well, I'm assuming like some of them are at least a little super powered, like
Right.
like Drax or Gamora, but you don't quite know how to pair them up with the rest of the Avengers.
That scene served as a really good, I guess, litmus test
Yeah.
for how all of their powers match up against each other.
Yeah, and Star-Lord, like, I think he had a lot of interesting elements to him that were unique to him.
Right.
So he didn't just look like another flying guy shooting blasters.
Yeah,
Or,
you were
know-
kind of reminded about how, you know, he grew up being a Ravager, and
Yeah.
his trademark thing is being able to fly around and dodge shit.
Yeah.
And, you know, get out of sticky
and
situations.
his trickiness. He's
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
super tricky guy, and that's like out of the box kind of thinking. You're like, well, that is a superpower because it's like, you know, he's flipping around and then all of a sudden, like, Thanos sees like this bomb connected to him. He's like, oh crap, and just explodes on him. You know,
Right.
it's like he just really sneaky like that, and that was a cool part of his
Yeah.
character.
And then also one thing I mentioned, one of my favorite parts, is I loved Iron Man's new armor. The nano tech armor.
Man, that was
Yeah.
next level, wasn't
Yeah.
it? He had like shields and laser swords.
Yeah, and
and
could like morph into what he wanted. That
Yeah.
was, I really enjoyed that.
yeah,
That's pretty cool.
yeah, that was intense.
Yeah.
His new armor.
There's a couple others. You know, Bucky and Rocket. You know, they're seen in Wakanda when he's just like, can I get that arm? And he's just like, oh my god.
I'm
and
gonna
then-
get that arm.
He later like spins him around, doesn't he? Like holding him up?
Picks him up with a gun, and so like he's
Yeah.
got the Winter Soldier has a gun in his hand, and Rocket Raccoon in his other hand.
That was pretty awesome. One of my favorite meetups was when Bruce and Cap and everyone gets to Wakanda, and they're kind of giving them the lowdown on the Mind Stone inside Vision, and Bruce is basically. He's emasculated by Shuri, I think that's her name. He's like, he's telling her, trying to give her the lowdown on what's going on, and she's like, "Well, did you try this?" And he's like, "I did not think of that." So I thought that was you know a pretty fun scene to watch but in his defense, he did not get to grow up in a city where vibranium is there, and it's the only repository in the world for vibranium. So, in his defense,
That's fair.
Yeah. I'm actually really looking forward to for the next movies. I really hope that her and Tony Stark interact with each other, because I would love to see like his ego bouncing against her kind of optimistic, like more carefree attitude towards things.
yeah. So did we don't have to talk about the things that made you cry.
Spider-Man. Spider-Man made me cry. I don't want to go.
But things that definitely got me emotional. I think that one got everyone was because I think we all decided that the reason why that one was different was because Spider-Man has his spidey senses, and he felt it coming. Much sooner than everyone else did. Everyone else was like, "Oh my God, I'm turning into Ash," and then he's like, a solid like 10 seconds before it's happening, he's like, "I don't understand what's happening." And so that was pretty emotional. And by that point, him and Tony were kind of like finally coming together, as far as like Tony having to hound him as like his makeshift father, to like, hey, you need to, do this and listen to what I say.
Right.
All that. So I think that was why it resonated with audiences. The one that got me really choked up was when Wanda had to kill Vision, and she actually did.
Yeah.
I don't think that the movie would have been the same if she was like, I can't do it, and then didn't do it. So I think that it really helped the tone of the movie when she actually decided to, take him up on his sacrificial offering, only to have himself brought back from the dead and killed again.
Yeah, that's a very traumatic experience.
Yeah, that was rough.
Like
poor guy. And then he had like that whole gray looking like post-mortem vision. That was that was brutal.
Not great. Yeah.
I gotta say the scenes between Thanos and Gamora with the Soul Stone, like that was like, whoa. Like, and also it gave that complexity to Thanos. She's like, you don't love anything, and he's like, crap, I love you. Kind of thing. like no, I have to throw you off this cliff.
That would have been real embarrassing if you threw her off and it still didn't work. It's like, maybe I didn't love her.
I guess I just love ice cream, maybe
ice cream. Souls. I love souls.
The souls, man. Give me the souls. So do you think that this movie had an MVP?
I say Doctor Strange.
I say Doctor Strange.
Yeah, I would say that too.
Not just the cool fight scene with Thanos, but
I'd say it was something totally different.
Him going forward in time with the Time Stone to see all of the possible outcomes was just brilliant.
Yeah,
and then you knew he was doing what needed to be done when he handed them.
Yeah, there was one outcome, and he knew that he was going to die because he said to Tony as he's fading away, he's like, I forget exactly what he said verbatim, but it's like, it's the only way, or it was the only way.
Yeah, because he mentions in the Flying Donut, before they get there, he tells Iron Man and Spider-Man, he's like, look, if it comes down to me saving one of you or the time gem, it's going to be the time gem.
Right.
That's my job to protect it.
Yeah.
And then him giving it over in order to, quote-unquote, save Tony's life.
Right.
You knew something was up then. But yeah. That's when I knew he was doing the right thing there, and he was like, doing his little meditation and paying it forward. We'll see how it ends up.
Yeah, I have a feeling that we might see some of those folks again, and that is a great segue into segment 3 and our last segment where we talk about our predictions for the future. I think one of the most important things is we talk about who we think is dead for good and who might come back in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
I personally am not 100% sold on anyone's death. That's not to say that if someone turned up really dead, like honestly dead, and isn't coming back, that I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
But with that said, I do think that everyone that turned to ash at the end,
Yeah.
I feel like all those people are going to come back in
Not
some
just
way.
the ones with sequels,
Right.
but all
yeah.
of them.
Yeah. I feel like they've all kind of gone to the same place. And once someone, whether it's, Tony or Captain Marvel gets a hold of the time gem, maybe that's the thing that happens.
Yeah.
They reverse back time and bring back everyone, or maybe they find a way into the Soul Stone lands.
Yeah, that's the theory I've heard, is that they all went to that soul world,
Right.
Inside the Soul Stone. And as far as predictions go, it's kind of something you have to try and piece together, I think. Like I mentioned the gauntlet on the planet with Peter Dinklage at
Right.
the Forge, meaning he could potentially forge another one if the previous gauntlet is actually destroyed after using all of the Infinity Gems.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of looking at Easter eggs that they'll pay off later,
Sure.
because they did such a good job in paying off so many, even like minor Easter eggs, like the eyeball that Rocket got from that Ravenger that Groot brought him in
Yeah.
Guardians 2, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, that's for Thor. I'm like, oh man, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Like, so now Thor has an eye. But I was trying to look for things that'll kind of like come back and just think about how on earth they're gonna do. I don't know how they're gonna pull it back, but I'm sure something from the comics is gonna have to play a huge role. Mark, you might know more about that than me.
Well, I doubt, because in the comics this would be about the time that they'd be introducing Adam Warlock, but I don't think they're going to do that yet.
Yeah, that's another interesting one, because they did tease him at the end of Guardians
Guardians
2.
2.
I think Captain Marvel is probably going to play Adam Strange's role to some extent. My only real main prediction that I feel has a decent possibility of happening is I think the entire reason that Doctor Strange did what he did is the intention is to make Thanos regret killing Gamora. So that's why Mantis was manipulating his emotions, and why Peter Quill was yelling at him about Gamora. So I think he's going to bring Gamora back to life, but since he paid for the Soul Stone with her death, that it's going to make him lose control of it. And that might be how everyone comes back from the Soul Realm.
That's a cool way to look at it. That's interesting. Yeah, because it has something to do with that Soul Stone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either way you look at it, and then how they're going to pay that off with like the Adam Warlock tease they put, and
Yeah, I
like,
just don't know.
I don't know if he'll play that same role, right? Because you have like Captain Marvel coming in. She's definitely going to have a big role in the second one, one way or another, because they're
And I think it'd
putting
be
her up to bat.
odd to set up Captain Marvel like they are right now, having her show up and then be like, oh yeah, also Adam Warlock's here and he's more important.
yeah, you're right. Yeah, she'll probably take over his role then.
Yeah,
I would
maybe it's
imagine.
not all the exact specifics, but kind of that general idea.
Yeah. And something crazy with the gems. I don't know. I mean, he did it to the whole universe, so it's like you leave the movie thinking, what?
That would be interesting if it does, like if everybody's outraged now, like maybe if scenes
Like the
with-
Celestials get
I
word
would love
of
to
something
see-
crazy just happened in the universe. Like where did all the people go? And
I
like,
would, because I don't know if they do it. So in the original Infinity Gauntlet story, there's a scene where Thanos goes toe to toe with all of like the biggest hitters in the Marvel universe, even significantly above the superheroes. And I would love to see even a small scene of something like that.
Yeah. Was it like the Sentinel and
he fought
other
two
people like that?
Celestials, Eternity, Infinity.
Oh yeah.
I forgot who else was Hayden Love. Maybe I forgot everyone who was there, but it was all like the people who make superheroes look like ants.
Right. Yeah. The Celestials. Yeah. I'm pretty sure, like, what I've heard is, like, this was kind of a time-sensitive... they shot it as in, like, it's a heist movie, because Thanos is trying to get all this done before the Celestials actually, like, catch
that
up
would be
and
neat.
catch word of what he's trying to do, because he might actually, get stopped by one of them, even with the gauntlet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this actually, this is going the opposite of what this actual segment should be. But I did think that all this may have been caused by Loki replacing Odin. Without Odin, because Thanos does everything very quickly. He goes from having no stones to 6 of them real quickly. And I think it's because he realized Odin was no longer watching.
You're right.
So then he was free to do what he wanted. So I think it's, in the end, Loki's fault.
Yeah. In the end, yeah, everything's Loki's fault
Yeah.
in the end.
What if Loki comes back in part 2 and he's like, "Hey, I'm really sorry about that. I'm back now and I'm going to actually do something.
Yeah, you're like,
I am
come on,
very
Loki."
sorry about everyone dying.
Yeah.
It was my fault. I died too.
I
That's
died
neither,
too.
That's neither here nor there. And I am back now, and I have more powers.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's super Loki.
Yeah. Well, I think we covered quite a bit of material in under an hour.
Yeah.
Are there anything? Is there anything else that you guys feel like we need to touch on that we didn't touch on?
Let's see.
Well,
I think we
covered all the bases pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
As far as I can think of off
Yeah.
the top of my head, because there was a lot going on in this
Yeah.
movie. I'll probably think of
just-
something tomorrow and be like, "Oh, we got to film another episode.
Right.
Let's do this."
Yeah, I think
definitely need to rewatch the movie.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's a lot
yeah.
of stuff I'm forgetting.
Yeah, I think everyone in the office, the three of us, and then a few other people are planning on a mass field trip to go try and go see it again.
Yeah.
Because I definitely would like to see it again. So, Jared, you want to tell people about Nashville Unsigned since you were gracious enough to be a guest?
Yeah.
Just like a quick rundown of what y'all do and where we can find you on the internet.
Right. So Nashville Unsigned is a network for unsigned artists in and around the Nashville area. Eventually, we want to grow it larger, but there's such a big music community here and a professional music
What,
community.
musicians play here in Nashville? That
Yeah,
doesn't make
sometimes
that-
you
that
know,
doesn't make
sometimes
any
you walk
sense to
down
me.
the road and you see people, but yeah, since there's so many awesome people and studios here, there's no reason why you can't make somewhat of a decent career out of your music, and that's kind of what we hit on. We want to teach those who are just getting their feet wet and support those who are well into it now. And we have our own podcast. It's called the Nashville Unsigned Podcast.
How
Previously the
original,
news in you,
Right.
but yeah, Nashville Unsigned Podcast has a little bit better SEO, so we just went with that.
Yeah, I mean, a podcast with a name that's based off of your actual company's name
Right.
is, in my opinion, a smart choice,
Yeah.
especially for SEO
thank you.
and Google searches.
We try,
and,
yeah.
all that. If people want to find you places.
Oh yeah, find us NashvilleUnsigned.com. Come make a profile. Come interact with our community. We got a lot of people rocking and rolling. We throw shows. Yeah, so you can catch up with us there or on Facebook or any of the socials.
Excellent.
Oh, and Spotify. We had a pretty cool curated list on Spotify.
Cool.
So check that out.
Excellent. Jared, thank you.
Thank you, David.
Mark, do you want to plug anything?
No. I'll be doing a one-man show, but it's literally for no audience. It's just for me, so no one's invited. So.
Nice.
Is it in your shower where you take both the conditioner and shampoo and meld it together in your hands and you're like, what will happen next? And suck your head into a vortex.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been getting pretty rave reviews.
Mark's like, that's exactly what I'm doing. How did you find out? Have you been reading my dream journal again?
My dream journal. That's perfect.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for being here. I greatly appreciate you being guests. And thank you, audience, for listening to this episode. And I'm very sorry that it has been like 17 months between this episode and our last episode. I promise that we're not dead. We're just really busy. So, yeah, thank you for listening, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.
Adios.
Adios. Oh, yeah. New sign-off line. Be kind, stay geeky, and eat lots of cheesecake.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.